Thank you, BC Tech, for the opportunity to speak at this panel. And also, I'm really excited to have some awesome guests here today. Brad and Tom and Sachin, welcome to this discussion. It's all about the businesses in BC and across the board in Canada adopting technology. And technology has always been thought of as one of the tools that businesses are able to transform and leverage and increase their performance. Now we have some very interesting backgrounds here around O2E brands, 1-800 Got Junk, Rocky Mountaineer, and Shipboard. So to get us started, let's talk to you, get to know you a little bit more. So maybe our panel here can share a little bit with our audience a bit about yourself and your company's history. I'll start with you, Tom. Tell us a little bit more about Rocky Mountaineer and the business you guys are in and the digital transformation.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to be with you all this morning, and happy Valentine's. Rocky Mountaineer, and I see none of us are wearing red in our pictures. Rocky Mountaineer, a 32-year-old BC brand, is going through its latest evolution of digital transformation. With Rocky, we strive to provide a luxury train experience, and one of our values is providing the experiences of a lifetime. And with a lot of the last 3 years, the pandemic has really almost shuttered the company because of no one was traveling, and we're a very seasonal organization. And when we restarted last year, in 21, we ran a half a season, and we saw that systems that were built for pre-pandemic levels of travel didn't fit the mold anymore, and we needed to adjust those systems. So with just around 70,000 guests in 2019 to no guests in 2020 to roughly 30,000 guests in 22 to over 100,000 guests this past season. It's stretched our systems, and we're really finding that we're having to make some changes, not just from the internal systems, but really starting to provide that luxury experience for our guests. So when they get there, they don't have to worry about anything other than sitting down and enjoying the ride. So it's got some great challenges.
Wow. Yes, and you've always hear Rocky Mountaineer, whatever the name brand comes up in any conversations around dinner tables and parties, everyone always says, wow, yeah, man, I wish it's on our bucket list. So it's really interesting to hear as a business, what's considered an industry business in BC, facing some of these interesting challenges, so to speak, and looking forward to hearing more about how you guys are doing the transformation, leveraging technology today. Thanks, Tom. Next up, Brad, O2E Brands. I think many people are familiar with 1-800 Got Junk. O2E Brands may or may not be the direct name that comes to mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And just also wanted to say thanks so much for the opportunity to be here today. As Erica mentioned, I'm Director of Enterprise Business Solutions. And to your point, Bruce, O2E Brands started with 1-800 Got Junk back in 1989. And now we're a collection of prominent home service brands. And O2E, we take the ordinary and we make it exceptional. And we do this across all three of our brands. So 1-800 Got Junk, Wow One Day Painting, and Shack Shine. And so in my current role, I lead our product and business analysis team, and we're really focused on aligning our technology solutions with both the long-term, but also the more immediate strategy of our three brands.
Awesome. Thanks, Brad. It will be really interesting to hear your perspective about how, talk about as traditional as possible when it comes to junk collection and, home services, how you guys are transforming that line of business. Thanks, Brad. And Sachin, you have a little bit different perspective. Shiftboard is in the business of time and people management, supporting a lot of the manufacturing brands. From what I hear, from Ford to Shell to a lot of the major manufacturing companies. Tell us more.
Yeah, so thank you again for the opportunity. So yeah, I'm CTO here at Shiftboard, and I was founder of the main product we sell at Shiftboard that works with all of these industrial brands. So what we do is that employee scheduling and time management for these industrial applications, specializing in compliance and safety regulations. So what we definitely see from that journey, I guess, of digital transformation and innovation, we're a bit different. We're that service provider, and so we love to work with all these different companies and help them on that journey. And so we get to see all these different brands, as you mentioned, some of the largest brands in the world that we all know, but also a lot of brands that just allow us to do everyday work. So some of the food that's on your table, to things that you use on every day for cleaning your house and things like that. So we get to see businesses of all sizes going through this transformation journey.
It's awesome. It will be great to hear your perspective from that service provider angle in this conversation. So welcome everyone. And the next question here, I think it's really interesting when people talk about digital transformation. It's always good to understand the catalyst of a transformation, what's driving it. So maybe Tom, I'll go back to you to start this
Sure.
line of question here. Is that, can you talk to us a little bit more about how that journey started and what the catalyst was for Rocky Mountain's digital transformation?
The original catalyst for it was we were using a reservation called Travel Studio. And in the onset of travel of 2017, 2018, the company was becoming too big for that product. And we were already heavy Salesforce users from our CRM and sales lead perspective. So we went out and we found a partner in Iceland called Captio Travel Systems. And they were one of the first people building a travel reservation system within the Salesforce ecosystem. And so we partnered with them, and that was the trigger point for, hey, we've got all our customer data in one space now. This is kind of cool. Where can we go from this? So it took with COVID, it took the company an extra long time to implement it. So we all know projects always end on time and on budget, right? So yeah. this one took us a little longer. And coming through COVID, we've got the kinks out of this system. We're starting to use this as our place to expand. So we're using our customer data in a way where we can start to integrate to departure control systems, where we're now up until even this season, we're still printing paper boarding passes and luggage tags like you get in the airport. So we're still printing those, but the goal is to get your boarding pass and your luggage information all into your phone onto an app. So we're working through building out an app experience for our guests, so they can also have all that travel. Like when we get guests showing up to check in, they've got thick binders of all their travel docs, because our demographic is a little older. They like to travel with paper, and when they show up, they've got all their information neatly organized in there. And when we have emergencies or we have uncontrollable wildfires in Jasper, data needs to change quickly. We need to reroute. We were rerouting roughly 400 passengers a day from Jasper trains to Banff trains in the end of the summer. And that data the paper doesn't exist anymore. So we're having to reroute people digitally and update their travel docs and send them these things. So we're looking at great ways in terms of getting it onto apps, onto phones, so that their travel docs update real time. if something changes, their seat changes, their meal preferences, boarding times, baggage locations, all these things, we're looking to direct through an app experience over the next 18 months and really give them that luxury experience. So if anyone's ever been on a cruise line or a luxury cruise, that's the target. That's where we're going towards is that kind of experience.
Oh, that's really interesting. So from what you're describing there, really that end goal of providing the premium upgraded experience to your customers.
Yep.
And also in the back end, I can imagine, all the things that you're describing that has to cascade down. And, when you think about train operation, it doesn't get more physical assets than trains on tracks that are running, right? So that's really interesting. Put a pin on that. I really want to talk more on that today. Thanks, Tom. And Brad, share with us a little bit about that journey and catalyst for O2E Brands. Is a very well-known brand for everybody. We hear it on the radio all the time. 1-800 got junk. You just have to point. It's gone from Mr. Brian Scudamore.
Yeah, it's magic. It's magic. We make your junk disappear. It's funny that the journey sounds quite similar to Tom's actually. In our largest transformation program was our field service application and upgrading that from something that was proprietary to now we leverage a Salesforce field service solution. And the catalyst for that was really born out of a place of that proprietary tool not being able to keep pace with our scale. The organization has seen relatively rapid growth over the last 6-7 years. We do over $500 million a year in junk removal alone. So thousands of trucks driving all over the road every single day. And so we were really solving some acute challenges. But again, similar to Tom's point, we really wanted to set ourselves up for success in the future from a scalability, from a security perspective, but also from an extendability perspective when we think about business capabilities. So we're absolutely a premium brand and we provide a premium service. And so leveraging a solution like Salesforce Field Service opens up some of those doors in the future, both for our own custom development, but also some more out-of-the-box functionality that allows us to push to that mobile experience and that kind of newer demographic that we're marketing towards.
Right, and that's really interesting. Both what's considered as traditional industries are leveraging business technology and partners that are very commonplace these days to upgrade your business operations. And also I'm detecting a theme that is this premium Uber-like experience that's app driven, very directed towards your customer. Very interesting. I'd love to peel that onion a little bit more. And on the similar catalyst side of it, Sachin, you have a bit of a different perspective probably you can share about these catalysts that you see with your customers. As a service provider, you work with all these different industries. I'm sure there's a lot of battle scars and interesting observations that you're seeing out there. What are some of the catalysts you see your customers that are driving the digital transformation?
Yeah, at least from what we do, where we are providing, really our customers are the employees or the workers at each of these industrial companies. And so what's really been the spark has been the pandemic. We've all heard about the labor shortages, obviously the constraints on hiring people, and really trying to deliver in all of the disruptions that we've seen in the supply chain. So this has been actually, the pandemic's been a very busy time for us, really trying to help organizations with being able to deliver and operate efficiently. So that's been an amazing spark. But even before and after that, there was really drivers either came from, we need to manage our employees better. We need to deal with that challenge. And obviously, every organization is pretty much a shell if there's no employees, or often cost and cost efficiencies and saying, how do we operate more efficiently? That can either be, reduction in just, wasted labor, or even just how do we deploy our resources more efficiently? So make sure that we are actually delivering what we need. And so you might have enough people, but they're not in the right place. So those have been, the big catalysts. But it is kind of funny that everyone's talking about this app experience. And it's really funny because for us, it's similar, but it's the app for these employees. Can they get the information they need at the right time, connecting their needs to the management and being able to, give them that, premium experience, but as an employee, that they can say
external stakeholders. Yeah,
exactly. Bring those stakeholders together, and that they can easily pick up shifts or manage their lifestyle. So yeah, it is kind of funny. There are some real parallels, I think, of where digital transformation is moving companies, whether it's to the customer or to their internal employees.
Right. And that's really interesting, the concept of the parallels that you're seeing out there for the internal stakeholders to the external customers. So I'm sure that, as you are observing and also driving a lot of these digital transformation engagements or initiatives within your organization and with some of your stakeholders, it's always interesting to consider projects like Tom was kind of alluding to. Every project is on time and on budget, right? What are some of the challenges that you're seeing out there from your experience? I'm sure there are some battle scars and things that you're coming across that are challenging. Change is the only constant, but managing those change is key. So maybe I'll start with you, Brad, and you can share with us a little bit of your thoughts around challenges you have faced during those implementations.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll park the schedule and budget piece, but we'll kind of hone in on a theme of time to value. That's a real topic of discussion for us right now. And big focus because we often will equate velocity to competitive advantage. And in order to achieve this, we need to align our technology teams with the users and business outcomes that we're targeting within our strategy. And so we really have honed in on focusing our teams beyond the launch, beyond the technical achievement, beyond just the digital component of a larger transformation program. And so we seek to measure things like adoption, workflow and capability utilization. So are we using a certain component of the system as it was intended to? We measure both internal and external satisfaction and effort score with our digital platforms. And again, we just really orient our team to the broader business outcomes and capabilities, because what we find is, in a more traditional approach, you can spend a lot of time up front getting really clear on certain requirements or a design. And the reality is when you put that in front of a very vast user base that spread out over vast geographic region, you're going to find things that you didn't intend. So when we cut that time to value down, when we orient our teams super close to our users and the business outcomes, we see some pretty positive results.
That's really interesting. There's a couple of really cool concepts you mentioned, time to value. And also, when you're pushing out solutions or designing solutions up front with the vast stakeholder variety that you have to face with, probably not everybody is going to be happy, but it's about that measurement and the best benefit for the business strategy, I guess.
For sure. It's about the long term, and we've recently started bringing in some self-imposed constraints and really leaning into a test and learn or pilot methodology. So, within a defined time bubble, what can we do? And, we're not looking for the perfect solution and maybe we're missing a critical component of an integration or whatever it might be, but it's progress over perfection. And we know that it's a step in the journey. So it's amazing how a project or a targeted outcome can shift over time as you learn more and get, really skilled at slicing these things really thin and driving that time to value down.
That's really awesome. Time to value. And Tom, over to you. You're probably seeing some parallels there. With as we talked about, with a lot of fixed assets when it comes to train operations, similar to O2E brand, thousands of trucks that's running out there on the roads. the challenges that you're facing, probably changing people's minds and hearts, and how to implement is equally important as how to implement the technical side of things, so to speak.
Well, the technology in locomotives have not changed in 50 years, and I think a lot of our locomotives are about 50 plus years old. They require a lot of service. New breakthroughs in hydrogen technologies are starting to lead us to hydrogen fueled locomotives, where we're going to, I think in 2024, we're going to be piloting along with CP a new locomotive on one of our lines. And that's kind of that's one of these external, where we don't run a very carbon friendly business. We're striving, and every project where Brad has the time to value in our projects now, we're in our initiatives, we've got 3 or 4 things that we gauge, is it worth doing? We've got employee satisfaction. So employee engagement is a key performance indicator for all of Rocky. Guest experience. So we go off of NPS scores is how we grade ourselves. How do we score in the business? The all, be it EBITDA, is it profitable? Is it going to make us money? Because we got to keep the trains fueled and the people paid somehow. And the last one is sustainability. What are we doing in our world to drive down our carbon footprint, given that we run 4 lines, and I can't remember the exact numbers, but we've got a lot of train that we ran in both Canada and the US. So it's when we're lining things up for projects, we're looking at those kinds of factors in terms of, is it going to make our guests our guest experience more enjoyable? Will our employees be happy with the new technology that we put in? Is it going to make them happier? Will it help them provide that excellent level of service and experience for our guests? Is it a loser to do the project, or can we make something out of it? And how does it rack up against the environment? Like, those are the environment, the sustainment, and the sustainment aspect of everything is really starting to come through. And that's one of the reasons why we want to get more digital. So we look at things like innovation platforms. How do we can't do everything. IT can't do everything. So we look to our innovation platform. We've just recently started working with things like Microsoft Power Platform to let other people have a go at it. And there's lots of smart people which in our organization, which that lends to the employee engagement. Is there a place for them to play and bring some of their ideas forward? And that helps with IT, because IT isn't having to do every single little project. We can focus on the large, impactful ones that go broad reaching across the organization.
That's really interesting that you mentioned that, when it comes to that change management with your groups, right? Especially the businesses have been around for decades, and the people are used to certain ways of working. That's always challenging it by giving them the tool and platform that they can innovate on top of. That opens up the door of that almost opening the floodgate a little bit more, but in a controlled manner. That's really
Karen, my boss and I, we talk regularly about the build versus buy, and we want to be 80% out of the box, 20% customization. And then we find that's an old standard, but it still works. Like it's one of those ones, if you can do 80% out of the box, do a little bit better job of change management and training, and get people on board with, why are you not going to make it exactly how they did their job in the old system?
Right. So in a way, IT, what's traditional when you say IT in a lot of the companies, fortunately or unfortunately, however you view that, it has a connotation of, hey, my computer is not working. Can you fix my computer? Right.
Yeah.
My login doesn't work. Can you, get me into the system type of thing? But Brad, I'm noticing in your signage here is business technology. That's catching my eye. That's subtle, but
Mhm.
seems important of a concept, Brad. Can you share with us a little bit that the department, business technology rather than IT, information technology?
Yeah, and I'll go a little bit further even and share a couple of the mindset principles that we introduced with our team last year. One being we are the business, and two being we enable capabilities. And so we really want our team to feel a very tight connection to the business outcomes that we're targeting. And we put a lot of time and energy into making our objectives and key results visible and actually tying that back to individual work packages that are assigned right down to the business analyst and developer. So they have a clear understanding of how the work that they're doing contributes to the broader organization. And the other thing that we've asked everyone to do is kind of take a step back from the technology feature that we're looking at. And similar to Tom, we're kind of diving deep into the mobile experience and looking at how that affects our customer journey. And to your point, the Uber of junk removal, where's my truck is no longer a phone call to our sales center. It's, how do we get that on the phone with real-time tracking? And so we want our team members to really understand the capabilities. We enable business capabilities to drive business outcomes. And so within a capability, we know there's people, process, technology, and data components. You need to have all four of those for it to be successful. Looking more broadly at our solutions as business capabilities, and having people, process, technology, and data there is required to successfully enable a capability.
Very cool. Yeah, it's a subtle naming convention, business technology, but it certainly carry a lot more concept behind it. And Sachin, around challenges. So I think you're in a really unique position from Shipboard's perspective that you're working with. A lot of companies probably have technologies that's 50 years old, just like Tom mentioned, right? Manufacturing, you got a lot of physical assets, you got people that are staffing these lines for manufacturing production lines. What are the challenges that you're seeing out there across the board, that these digital transformation, these adoption of technology that generally are seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we see really aligns with what Brad and Tom said. I mean, you two would probably be the ideal clients, actually.
Nice one.
Not from a technology, but from a viewpoint, right? Of that you're looking at this strategically, that you're really thinking about it beyond just that, hey, I need a piece of technology, and I just need to stick it in somewhere. We definitely have clients that have that viewpoint, but where we really see the impact is when our clients see the bigger picture, when they they think about adoption. What we often see even in those more broader thinking clients is they miss that end user alignment. So the person on the ground, for you guys, the truck driver, or the person picking up baggage, and for that individual, why is my world changing? They might have been doing the same thing for decades, and really aligning this change to that bigger, what the executive team wants, what that transformation is often missed. And that kind of almost you forget, right? Because you do all this work, and then the person who actually needs to click the button is like, well, I like my paper, and they still use paper as their real source of truth. So that's a key challenge that people maybe underestimate in a transformation journey. I think the other one that you mentioned with legacy systems, we definitely work with companies that have been around for 100 years or more, and they've got some crazy systems out there. I think from a tactical standpoint, again, Brad sort of said this really well. You have to slice off what do you need to go do and scope it, because I think when you have these legacy systems, you have to be very, very careful. We've seen projects where you start touching things, and they get a life of their own and keep growing. I know, Bruce, you're an expert in some of these things, but I'm sure you've seen that happen as well. But you really have to be clear on what you want to achieve. Make sure you're not trying to do too many things. I think there's a real skill of IT leadership and technology leadership to be able to scope a project and understand what can be achieved and what really has impact versus the nice to haves. And that skill, when you find that partnership with a customer, that's when really great things can happen. That time to value, again, really you start seeing that light up, and you see the impact of that transformation occur. So those projects get me excited, and that's what I always hope for in a client.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and you mentioned a couple of things there is around aligning with your end stakeholder, the people that needs to click the buttons, and the digital transformation strategic objectives, and align all the way down, trickle down to the people who needs to actually click the buttons. That's awesome to remember. Obviously, this change management piece there is about seeing the benefits, right, and aligning everyone's vision together. So have you seen any benefits so far on your journey? It's an ongoing journey, and there are certain milestones that you hit, and celebrating those milestones are important. So Tom, I'll start with you. Any interesting milestones to share in terms of the benefits that you have seen so far on the digital transformation journey at Rocky?
I think that a couple things that we're seeing so far with Rocky is Sachin, you said it, the balance of what can be achieved versus the overall impact. So with Rocky, we've put some in the last year, we've put some project profile management systems into place where we control the flow of what's going in, the technology of, what projects do we take on? And it's the benefits. I think we're still about 18. The real cool milestones are about 18 months out. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the company is going to be in, this time next year, and maybe 2 years out. It should be a different organization altogether in terms of the end user experience internally to Rocky, because our systems are evolving, selling faster, selling the right product, making the most, understanding our data, and being able to understand the revenue per seat, and those kinds of things that we're looking at evolving. So we're a little ways away. Like we were heavily impacted by COVID. So, IT, I spent the last year and a bit rebuilding, my half of the IT department to a point where we can actually deliver things. IT was on life support at Rocky for the most part because we weren't running trains. They didn't really need us. But now we're at the spot where things are starting to evolve. We're just putting finishing touches on a few key integrations for boarding and check-in, so that guests will be able to check in online, see their seats, and have a smoother check-in process. We're also just finishing up kind of a one-of-a-kind custom seating application done through Salesforce, where confirmed guests automatically get seated, and the evolution of that one next year will be to choose your seat. I want to sit on this side of the train going eastbound or westbound, those kinds of things. So you can really take advantage of the scenery. So those are the things that are on tap for the next 18 months.
So with the right platform now, that you're able to start enabling and imagining these offerings to upgrade your premium experience for your customer.
We're opening up new fields, in terms of what kind of data we're collecting, what kind of data we're able to use to analyze our revenues and our ticket prices. We're discussing dynamic ticket pricing for the trains based on it. So there's some
pricing coming.
Once you get once you get a platform that helps you grow, it really does start to take off. And not plugging Salesforce too much, but it's one of those things that's really helping us move the business forward.
That's awesome. Yeah, great to see to hear about those benefits that you're seeing. And Brad, what are you guys seeing some good milestones?
Yeah, it's interesting listening to Tom talk through some of the benefits of the Salesforce implementation. And for me, the first thing that comes to mind hearing that is just focus. With a robust enterprise system in place, it gives you that focus to evaluate the next capability or that new thing to bring into the service offering. You're not talking about the system going down last night or the major issue over here. There's no fire. So focus is a big one. And certainly for us, there's competitive advantage where we are a premium service. Our net promoter scores through the roof. And with our systems in place today, we're able to gather a lot of really valuable information that allows us to stay ahead of the curve there. So identify friction points in both the customer and the employee journey. I think Sachin and Tom both touched on employee satisfaction, and that's a huge one for us. So the employee experience, the person sitting in the truck and having to actually execute the workflow that we've defined. We can leverage data to understand those friction points, refine them, and make things easier for our users. So like that in and of itself is just a massive win. Just simply, we know that when we take care of our people, they take care of our customers.
Nice. Yeah. I have one last question here. I'm going to jump ahead. So I want to leave some time for the audience to provide some questions that they may have for the panel. So to the audience, please feel free to add your questions into the chat here. So I think every single panelist here have talked about working with partners. For instance, BC Tech is a great ecosystem as a partner that you can, really tap into. There are, hundreds, 800 or 900 different companies that belong to the ecosystem. But also you have mentioned, about Salesforce and Captio and some of the partners that you work with. Love to hear a little bit more about the factors that you think most important. You making your decision to make a technology investment into a partner, and how do you choose select a partner? How do you work with them? So Sachin, I'll let you go the last, because I think you're in a unique position as a service provider. Tom, over to you very quickly.
Oh, sure. I mean, my key things when I look for tech partners in the industry, it's really value alignment. Does the company operate fairly? Do I like the people that I'm working with? That's a big factor. Like, and especially in the market in Vancouver and North America, there's a lot of salespeople, and finding good partners through the sales channel is difficult. But I find when I do find those ones, I make sure I make good long-term relationships with those people.
Right. So that's interesting you say if you like the people. Really, there's a lot of trust building in there, isn't it?
That goes towards it. I mean, there's like and there's trust, and they've got to. While there's always some kind of definition of a sales pipeline that a company wants to push towards their customers because they need to keep their revenues going, you got to be able to be honest with them and say, that's not what I'm interested in. That's not in our tech wheelhouse. That's not the direction our strategy is going. So as the customer, be confident in the tech stack that you've got, be confident in the people and the skills that you have, and really find the ones that fit the gaps that you use, or the gaps that you have, and foster those relationships there and strengthen them and make them part of your team. Don't treat them like a contractor. Treat them as part of your team. And those people are always going to, like, the members that are included as part of your team will always want to keep working for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom. So trust. Yeah. And Brad, over to you on that.
Yeah, almost a carbon copy. I would say familiarity with the solution, the subject matter is obviously really important. Trust is massive. Having that relationship there, because we know that not everything goes to plan. Plans are there to change. And so you need a partner that can work through those challenges with you. And it sounds like very similar to Tom. We integrate all of our third parties really tightly with our team. They're one in the same. And so having some flexibility within our technology partner in terms of the ways of working and processes is really important. So we have a way of working, and the more that they can accommodate that, the better they'll integrate within our teams and the more shared success that we'll have.
Cool. So what I'm hearing is from both Tom and Brad, clarity, build the team into your team. Don't treat your partners like an outsider.
Yeah.
Foster the trust both ways.
Yeah, extend the trust both ways, and I think you got a good recipe there.
Great. Sachin, you're in a unique position as a service provider into these organizations. Maybe share with us a little bit more about the partnerships that you're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a mirror, but exactly what Brad and Tom said is exactly what we want to set up too. We can deliver so much more value to customers who want to partner with us. And while sometimes that may be almost harder, because you now have more problems that you can solve, it's much more rewarding, and you can actually do a lot better work. The one thing when you talk about selecting a partner, I think one interesting viewpoint that I have is our business grew heavily through the failure of other large vendors. So they would fail with big industrial clients, and we would come in and pick up the pieces and actually deliver real value. And all of our big brand names that you mentioned, Bruce, kind of went through a similar story to that. And I think for me, when I think back to when people come back and they're all upset, the previous vendor did this or that, a couple of key things kept playing out. One, there was, bigger isn't necessarily better. I think a lot of people forget about that, and that was maybe the way software was chosen, in previous generations, but that's not true. There's a lot of niche vendors who specialize in each area, and I think Brad and Tom mentioned, that exactly, that they went to vendors that specialize in their type of business. And I think the other one is again, that trust, but also somebody who can demonstrate that innovation and that willingness to partner with you. So a lot of folks said, well, we chose this company, they said they could go do this, but they didn't actually have that capability. And the way we've won our business has been, okay, well, this is your problem. Let me show you how we can go do that. And we'll build that trust and partnership, whether that's, in a demo or in a trial or a pilot. You find a way to build that trust piece by piece. And I think, again, those old school vendors lack that agility. So
agility is the key there. Yep.
Yeah, so I think there's ways to go about building that trust, both as a vendor and as a customer or as a client. But yeah, I think the world has changed from the way software was procured, even 10 years ago. So I'm maybe a little bit biased, but that old saying, software eats the world. I subscribe to that.
Awesome, thanks, Sachin. So I'm seeing some really interesting questions that's in the chat here. So we're moving over to some of the audience Q&A for our panel here. So I see from Deepak a question for Brad. So Brad, a question for you. Great to hear how your org has embedded business goals into all the work you do. Was the journey to integrate this mindset via performance management more top down or more bottom up from lessons learned through experience? I guess, Brad, maybe sharing a little bit of that journey with us here. Thanks, Deepak. Good question.
Yeah, great question. I think for sure some of that was born out of lessons through our field service implementation and recognizing after launch that some of the things that we had designed perhaps didn't align as well as we thought they would with our user group. And so how do we bridge that gap? In terms of top down, bottom up, I think that there's broad support for this goal alignment across the organization. And what we've started to do to drive that, because I think it's an ongoing effort, is build it into our systems and our processes. So right down to when we have an initiative progressing through our gate review process, we keep that business, that capability lens, people, process, technology, and data really front and center. So we talk a lot about these concepts as a group. We make our OKRs and our strategic objectives really clear to our teams. And again, have really worked to bring this systematically into both our solutions and delivery teams.
Yeah, and those battle scars, those scar tissues are always stronger than regular muscle, isn't it? All right, thanks, Brad. And also from Deepak, there's a really good question for you, Tom. You mentioned that some of your clients prefer paper. This is really interesting. This is a bit of a generational jump here. with lower funding due to the pandemic and perhaps still a lot of clients prefer paper, are there any strategies you use to stay ahead of the curve with changing generations / demographic and are able to add things to the roadmap in the digital transformation journey for the 5-star guest experience? I guess maybe there's a couple of pieces to the question.
There's a few things in there.
Yeah.
You know, it was interesting as we restarted after pandemic, especially with Rocky, there were 2 areas within the organization that they said that the board of directors and the family all said, we need to jumpstart these guys. IT and finance were 2 areas that we've been very lucky. We've received quite a lot of funding from the company to restart these 2 areas. So and specifically around like getting the technology back on track with our plans pre-pandemic. Now a lot of those have all been scrapped, and because the direction has gone a completely different one. In terms of the change of the generation, I think luckily we're not the first to do this. Like go to a paperless system. We've had the benefit of the airlines already doing this in very good ways. Like I think of United, Air Canada. For Air Canada as it is, their online, their mobile experience is one that we're looking very closely at. Cruise ships, and a lot of advances in both cellular technology, NFC, near field communications technology. We're not at the bleeding edge of that technology anymore. We're actually at a point where we're very much we can look at other organizations. And I know, like, my mom doesn't print boarding passes for flights anymore. She uses her phone, and through that change is already being affected. Like my mom actually pays for things with credit card on her phone now. So I'm quite pleased that I was able to show her how to do it. And my dad, forget it, no chance. He wants it printed out. He wants it there. My mom is she's very organized, and she sees the benefits of these things. So it's interesting how just technology in general has opened up these pathways for us, which if we were trying to steam ahead and forge our own way in these technologies, we'd have a lot more resistance to the I'm going to bring my folder full of papers to the front desk.
Right. Yeah. And thank you, Tom, for that answer. It's quite interesting to observe where we stand in terms of technology trending and the adoption of it in the general population and the demographics. I have one more question here from the audience, and then I have a final question for the panel before I hand it back to Erica. This question came from Rafael for Tom and Brad, both of you. This is a really relevant question. Just very quickly, maybe you can help answering with the time left here. What is your experience attracting tech talent to your industry? And this one is near and dear to my heart because we're hiring at Launchpad all the time, and as a tech company, you can talk tech with your target audience, the candidates.
Yep.
But as industry businesses, how do you attract tech talent to your industry? Over to you, Brad.
Brad, I'll let you go. I'll let you go first, Brad.
Yeah. Well, it's been a challenge for sure. I think anyone recruiting for these roles can tell you that over the last couple of years, it's been highly competitive as an employer.
Yeah.
We have a phenomenal culture and a very highly engaged team across our 3 brands and at O2E. And so we really lean into that. We spend a lot of time talking about personality traits and predictive index and make sure that culturally it's the right fit. And we lean into our people because great people know great people. And so they're for sure a fantastic means of recruiting folks to the organization.
Yeah. So company culture, good culture, attract good people, and really taking care of that aspect of it. Thanks, Brad. And Tom, over to you quickly.
It's very similar. I would say, like, adding to it is be quick. Like if you've got a candidate that you like, go for it. especially and in Rocky, starting after the pandemic in the travel and hospitality, like try selling that to when you're building a team. Like literally not too many people want to get on the train. So I pulled a lot from my network. I used a lot of my personal connections and previous team members that I really enjoy working with, and I know who are the A-team players. I poached them, and and I built a team around them because, like you said, you want to love the people that you work with, and I love the team that I've built in the last year, and you have that respect for everyone. But yeah, Vancouver especially, you got to be quick. You got to know what you're looking for, and you got to be able to deliver any of those promises that you give someone during an interview process. So don't tell them it's a fully remote job when they got to be in the office 2 or 3 days a week. Be honest with them. We're a hybrid company. You got to be there 2 days a week. Can you deal with that? Yes or no? The biggest one for us, believe it or not, was because Rocky is a federally mandated company, because we run on CP and CN, every employee had to be double vaxxed. And going through the interview process, there were some people that, I work from home. I want to stay working from home. I'm not getting vaccinated. All right. That was a difficult thing that you had to talk through. And luckily we've got great PNC people that are like, they can deliver that message very much nicer than I can probably do it.
Awesome. All right. Thanks. And Tom and Brad on the audience question there. Last question, very quickly, bullet points from all of the panels. For some of the other companies on the call here today, who may be from a more quote unquote traditional sector, about to look to explore benefits of technology, of their business growth, digital transformation, your word of advice, very quick bullet points. Sachin, start with you.
Yeah, I guess I'd go back to figure out what you want to achieve, what your outcome is, and find somebody you trust to go make that happen, and be laser focused on the how you're going to measure what that outcome is.
Clarity, measurement, and trust. And Brad.
Yeah, we have a saying guiding us this year that really comes to mind. It's think big, start small, learn fast.
Oh, love it. Think big, start small, learn fast. That is awesome. Tom.
Get creative.
Awesome.
There's all kinds of things out there. If you're a traditional organization, I know it's think outside the box, but get creative.
Awesome. Thank you very much for the awesome panel today, sharing our insights.